Oh my god, we actually have a Power Rangers Dino Thunder Easter egg in this movie. Well, it could actually be an Easter egg for the Super Sentai Bakuyo Sentai Abba Ranger, but it still counts. Ultraman Rising was released in 2024 and was directed by Shannon Tyndall. It tells the story of the character Kenji, who has returned home to carry on his father's legacy as Ultraman. And while doing so, he must look after a baby kaiju and stop an evil villain. Ultraman Rising is a movie that I had been hearing some good things about it. However, I didn't really know anything about the movie. I didn't really know what it was about, really. I just knew about the Dino Thunder Easter egg, and I had heard people saying that it was pretty good. I decided to check it out for myself. I did intend to watch it a while ago. I think it came out before or during I went to Turkey. I'm not 100% sure, but I just didn't get a chance to check it out when it first came out. So I might be a little late to the party with this movie, but better late than never, I guess. So, after watching the film for the first time, I do want to point out I don't know anything really about the Ultraman franchise. I am aware that it has its fans, but I don't know anything about it really. I just know that it's very kaiju based and I believe it's made in Japan. But other than that, I literally know jack shit really. So I don't know anything about the original source material. So this movie, I was pretty much blind about the Ultraman history and all. But so this movie is my first, introduction to the franchise. What do I think of it? I think it's good. I have a lot of flaws though, but I do have to say I actually enjoyed it. I do think the movie got better as it went on. But the story for me was a bit cliche. I think the movie started off quite interesting actually. I enjoyed the backstory of Kenji and his parents. I enjoyed the legacy, the lore of Ultraman. But I feel the beginning, like the first 10 minutes were pretty interesting. And then after that, the movie kind of started to fall apart for me. When it was about Kenji looking after and raising the baby kaiju, I feel this took way too much of the movie. Now I get it. I know that's partly what the movie is about. Kenji has to raise the baby kaiju. But I felt in the beginning of the relationship, I felt it was just very babyish and very cheesy and childish to me. And I was just kind of going, really? This is what it's about? I mean, it does get charming and it does get better as it goes on. But I did feel at first, I was just kind of going, really? This is what we're doing? It just, I don't know. I think it was just the tone of the relationship at first just felt very kiddie to me. But I also just didn't like how cliche it was. When the beginning of the relationship, I was going, yep, this is exactly how I thought it was going to go. And I will admit, like I said, the second half, where the relationship gets better, is actually done pretty well. And it does have its heart and charm. I just felt in the beginning, I was just going, really? This is a bit dumb. This shouldn't be what the movie is about. For me, I think the movie should have been about Kenji, his dad, and the legacy and becoming Ultraman. For me, that would have made a much more compelling storyline. Because the film, while it was about Ultraman, it was more so about Kenji the baby and the villain. I'll get to the villain later, but I just think the baby kaiju plot wasn't really needed. You can have it as a subplot, yeah, but I feel like the way it's executed in the movie, I just feel it takes up too much and I just didn't think it was necessary. I don't mind there being a baby kaiju, but it just, I don't know, something about the execution on the first half of it just felt really cringy to me, honestly. Not the worst thing I've ever seen, but I was just kind of going, that's a bit dumb. I also think the pacing of the movie can really, really drag. The film is 2 hours long, but honestly, it feels a lot longer. It just, a lot of it really does drag and drag and drag. There's a lot of slow burner scenes, and my god, they really do drag. So I think the movie's pacing was definitely not great. It just, to me, it really should have been an hour and a half, because I feel like if you take out the baby kaiju plot and made it more about Ultraman and the villain, the movie probably would have been better off with just being an hour and a half if you were going to make it about that. I don't think the movie needed to be 2 hours. That I might be, someone may disagree with that and that's fine, but I just didn't feel it. I just didn't think the movie needed that runtime. I think it really should have been shorter. So yeah, the pacing in a lot of scenes is very slow. However, the movie does get better with the second half. When we get Kenji and his dad interacted more, now admittedly, I did think at first it was going very cliche, especially with how Kenji was really cocky, think he has the mindset that, I'm unbeatable, I'm the greatest baseball player, and how I felt it was really cliche with how he felt towards his dad at first. But I have to admit, later on in the movie, it got more interesting and it got more charming, and I genuinely do feel the heart of the movie is the relationship with Kenji and his dad. It's actually really good. It starts off cliche, but I do think it gets better. And the third act of the movie is very good. Granted, while I did feel most of the movie really dragged, I actually think the ending is a little bit rushed. I hate it when movies just lead you on to think something's about to happen, and then it just cuts. I did like how the final shot of the movie kind of looked nearly identical to the final shot of Puss in Boots 2, with the camera angle and the way things were moving. I thought that was really cool. But I did feel the ending was just a little cut off. You'd think something's about to happen, then just bang, the movie's over. There is a mid-credit scene though that pretty much sets up a sequel. I don't know if they've confirmed a sequel, and to be honest, I do kind of hope they do get to make one. I would like to see the story continue, and I would like to see, given how the mid-credit scene played out, I would like to see how it's resolved. So I do think, despite its problems, slow pacing and the cliches, I do think the story does get better. It certainly takes its time to get more interesting and more charming, but I do think the story is good enough, just very flawed. The animation is really nice. It kind of looks like a mix of 2D and 3D, and it looks really cool. The character designs are really good, the action scenes are excellent, the climax alone is absolutely fantastic. And I have to say, I did think the climax might be my favourite part in the entire movie. It was just really exciting and awesome. And I also felt the rest of the action scenes really good and very well choreographed. So I have to say, action-wise, the movie is great. The film has a lot of great action sequences, and the animation is very nice. As for the characters, I do feel at first they're a bit cliche, but as the movie does go along, they certainly get better and a bit more interesting. I will admit, I did feel Kenji started off really cliche with how cocky he was in the first act of the film and how he felt towards his dad, but as the film goes along, he starts to get a little more interesting and becomes a better character. Kenji's dad is pretty good too, and I like the moments they have together. They really are the heart of the movie, and while the dynamic they have with one another can be very cliche at first, it is still pretty good and it is nice to watch. The baby kaiju is cute to say the least. I did have problems with the relationship with her and Kenji in the beginning, but I do think it gets better in the second half of the movie, and not to mention, I do have to admit, she is very cool in the climax. There's Ami, who has a few interactions with Kenji, but other than that, she's barely in the movie. From the beginning of the movie, I expected her to play a much bigger role, but no, she's barely in the movie. She's good, but she really would have benefited from being more involved. The villain, though, is very lackluster. He's not bad by any means, but there's just nothing to him. He has a cool design and a great vocal performance, but other than that, there's just nothing to the character. He's just incredibly forgettable, I feel. So I do have to say, the characters, while at first they were a little generic, I do think they get better, and I did start to care about the characters in the second half more as well. The music of the movie? Not half bad. There is some really good music in the film, and I was very surprised. The music of the movie, pretty good. So for someone that has no experience or very little knowledge of the Ultraman franchise, I do have to say this film was quite enjoyable. It did have flaws, but I'm happy to say I liked it. Overall, I think Ultraman Rising is decent. I do feel the story drags a lot in a lot of places, and the characters I do think start off a bit cliche, but it does get better as it goes along, and the climax is very excellent, I won't deny. The animation is very nice, and the music's not half bad either. I may have problems with it, but in the end, I'm still glad I gave it a chance. It was worth a watch. I'm gonna give Ultraman Rising a 7 out of 10. So that's it for my review of Ultraman Rising. Stay tuned for the next video. Until then, guys, thank you all so much for watching. Let me know what you guys think of the movie down in the comment section below. Stay tuned for the next video, and until then, skadoosh everyone.